his wife, all of them going to have tea or coffee with the Bushes and the Clintons in the Blue Room of the White House. And while they arrive, these members of the inaugural committee from the Congress, let us introduce the historians to whom Jeff Greenfield referred. We, in the past, have had the wonderful services of Henry Graff, who is the professor emeritus at Columbia University. He began to teach at Columbia right after the Second World War in 1946. You reminded us this morning, Henry, that you taught our boss when he was a student at Columbia. What are your early thoughts this morning?
Well, listening to Ann Compton, I was reminded that General Eisenhower, in the opening of his memoir on his time in the White House, tells us that on his first day in the Oval Office, he found a locked drawer in the desk, and he called for a key. The drawer was opened, and what did he find there but a folder? We would perhaps call it a trouble folder, kindly left behind by Harry Truman, with whom he was not on very good terms at that time. And it contained briefing papers on issues that the president might have to deal with immediately. And listening to Ann and contemplating Bush's departure, I wonder if President Bush has been so generous to President-elect Clinton, what kind of folder that is and how thick it is.
Well, certainly, Henry, one of the things about this transition period is that with some exceptions, the wrestling between the Democrats and the Republicans has not been particularly vigorous.
Yes.
We're also, this also, the entertainment package of the inauguration ceremonies. I want to bring in both Henry Graff and Alan Brinkley again for a second now to talk a little bit about this relationship between incoming and outgoing presidents. Henry Graff, they have not always got along, and as David Brinkley said earlier, they didn't even always want to go to the Capitol with one another.
You're right, Peter. Grant was inaugurated, and his predecessor, Andrew Johnson, was holding a cabinet meeting. And we know that at the end of the Mexican War, James K. Polk and his general, Zachary Taylor, who was about to become president, were barely on speaking terms. Friends of both brought them together so that at least they appeared together in public. And it's been that way throughout our history. Coolidge was very angry when Hoover decided to run for the presidency, Coolidge having said, "I do not choose to run." And without even talking to Coolidge, Hoover said, "I'm in it and I'm going to win." And though Coolidge never said anything, they were barely on speaking terms when Hoover was inaugurated in 1929.
Alan Brinkley, can you recall the best relationship between
the presidency must change, and no one, no kind of event, human failure, delays, oversleeping, or anything like that can be allowed to delay it, because there would be trouble. Who was president when that happened? And, so it's noon, period.
Henry Graff, join us for just a second while we're listening and watching the Marine Band. How has this inaugural ceremony changed over the years, besides becoming grander?
It hasn't changed very much. It was once a private affair, and it was not attended by the great multitude. But the first outdoor inauguration was Madison's. It was held at the Capitol, formally.
Virginia Kelly, Governor Clinton's mother. Henry, I'll interrupt you occasionally.
Yes,
I apologize, just to identify people. Please go on.
Sure. And the event became larger and larger, and now, of course, it's of world proportions. The first broadcast of an inauguration was Coolidge's in 1925. The first televised inauguration was Harry Truman's in 1949. And the public feels, I think, a greater sense of participation in the last generation than ever before. It was once a simple thing. We're talking before about the transition. Millard Fillmore, when Franklin Pierce arrived, took him to hear William Makepeace Thackeray, who was lecturing in the city of Washington. I can't imagine a president today coming in on such soft feet.
And Alan Brinkley, it reminds me, watching that motorcade go up, that Jefferson sort of wandered over to his inauguration, didn't he?
Well, Jefferson, who had been living in Washington.